Hello, and welcome to the Illinois LawCast, a podcast about the wisdom, wit, and curiosity of the University of Illinois College of Law. I'm your host, Chris Davies, and this episode is all about the Veterans Legal Clinic. Our first guest is Yulanda Curtis, the founding director of the clinic, who shares a bit of her story and why she is passionate about helping meet the civil legal needs of veterans in the central Illinois community. The second guest in this episode is Luke Hemmerla, a 3L student and second lieutenant in the Missouri Army National Guard as a military police officer. He spoke about his experience as a member of the armed forces and why being part of the Veterans Legal Clinic has been such a valuable part of his legal education. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you enjoy our conversations. Thank you, Yulanda, for joining us on the podcast. I was hoping you could take us back to the beginning and what got you interested in a career in law first.
Oh, well, I have sort of a roundabout answer to how I came to the law. So some people start undergrad knowing they want to be an attorney. That was not my story. So I was admitted to the business school in undergrad, and I got there thinking, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to work in nonprofit areas because I think they also need business acumen. And I got there, and while I enjoyed, my time in business school, I immediately realized that this was not the profession for me. So I started looking at other avenues, and I was still interested in public interest work, but not from the business side of it. So about my final year or so in business school, I started thinking about law school, and I was lucky to participate in a Michigan and Washington program. So I spent a semester in Washington, D.C., my final year of undergrad, where I worked for nonprofit organizations, and some of my roommates were working for law firms, and it just kind of dawned on me. I was like, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. I want to do public interest work, but I don't want to be on the business side of it. I want to be on the legal side.
Right. And then you come from a military family, correct? But
Yes.
You're not a military veteran yourself.
No.
So was the desire to help military families, and was that an immediate interest, from the public interest side for you?
I don't know if it was an immediate interest, but when it became apparent that I could do this kind of work, it was like a light bulb went off. Like, oh, I can do this work. It's public interest, what I want to do. And it also really spoke to me because of my family background. So my mom, she spent 20 years in the Army. And my dad, he served before I was born, but he did active duty service and some National Guard service. And I have a number of aunts and uncles who also served in one branch of the military or another. And I have some cousins that are still in the military. So this seemed like a natural fit for me.
And then coming to Illinois, and you founded our Veterans Legal Clinic, what was the draw to this place, to doing this work?
So I really feel lucky being in Illinois because there are so many other resources that are geared towards veterans. So my clinic is part of the Illinois Armed Forces Legal Aid Network. So we're not existing alone in terms of providing civil legal services for veterans. And there's one central hotline that veterans can call in and look for legal assistance and then get directed to us or another organization in central Illinois to provide free civil legal services. So having that network was really beneficial. And looking at, law schools where I applied for positions, I felt like this was really uniquely situated. So outside of the state of Illinois, the university also has a really good programming towards veterans. So we have the CHES Center on campus, and the ROTC program is really strong. So it wasn't just giving like this passing glance towards veterans. It really felt like the university was deeply interested in veterans and providing services to veterans. And that if I were to start a clinic here, that the university would be invested in it and it would be part of a larger mission towards veterans.
And can you remind me how long you've been running the clinic?
Since 2018.
Since 2018. And in that time, how has, your perception coming in that the university would be supportive, how has that played out? And what kind of work do you do with those other groups on campus?
So the ROTC program, I'm part of a faculty committee. So I feel like we are part of a larger community. So when they're hiring new faculty members for the ROTC program, I'm part of the process in approving some of the new ROTC professors. And also with the CHES Center, they were very welcoming when I came on to campus, making sure I got a tour of the CHES Center, which I must say is beautiful. If you haven't had an opportunity to go see the CHES Center, this is the plug. But also the programming at the CHES Center inviting me to programming at the CHES Center. Also making sure like if there's any grant money available through the CHES Center that I have the opportunity to also apply for it. So it does feel like there's a synergy in terms of research, in terms of providing services to veterans on campus, and also providing services to veterans in the broader community. And I'm really glad that I could be a part of that.
Excellent. What is the day-to-day life like as the clinic director, leading classes? What kind of work are the students doing on a regular basis?
So day to day, sometimes it feels hard to explain. So we're a veterans legal clinic, but we don't provide services in terms of veterans disability. And I think that is sort of a misnomer in terms of what people expect. I started the veterans legal clinic because the need is for civil legal services for veterans. There are a number of organizations that will provide assistance to veterans to help them secure veterans disability benefits. But when it comes to helping someone with their family legal issues, adoption, divorce, child custody, or consumer complaints like contract disputes and things of that nature, there are not enough resources available to veterans. And there's research from the VA saying that several of the most unmet needs for veterans, especially homeless veterans, are civil legal needs not being met. And so when I pitched the clinic, I pitched it as a way to address veteran homelessness, because if you have, child support and you need to modify that and you don't have the money, that can contribute to homelessness. There's so many issues that feed into the veteran homelessness problem that derive or stem from unmet civil legal needs. And that's where I really wanted to position the clinic.
About how many clients do you see in an average semester?
So I have 4 teams of students, and each of them handle about 4 to 5 cases each. So at any given time, there's 20 cases potentially, but cases go in and out. So, we'll have a family legal issue and it might wrap up during the course of the semester, but then we'll get another Illinois Armed Forces Legal Aid Network case that comes in. So I say at a minimum 20, but sometimes it can go up to the 30 because of how we are moving cases through. And I now realize I didn't kind of answer your day-to-day question, because it's not typically a day-to-day, but I do meet with students for 1 hour supervision weekly. I teach the class, which is an hour and 15 minutes twice a week. And then we could possibly go to court if we have a court date that is scheduled for a case. I meet with students sometimes out of supervision if there's something pressing going on in the case. I have meetings across campus with organizations that may be related to veterans. So a day-to-day kind of varies. I, as a supervisor, try to have a pretty hands-off approach to the representation, because I really want the students to take ownership over the cases. So the students may have meetings with the client and I'm not there. Sometimes I don't meet the client actually until we go to court. And I know that it may give my students pause at times, but I think that they have a better experience at the end because I feel as though my students are very comfortable interacting with clients by the end of the semester because they are the face of the clinic to the clients.
And the students do get sworn in, get licensed as attorneys, even though they're still students?
Yes, they need a 7-Eleven license to practice in the clinic. So the only students that can take the clinic are second semester 2Ls and 3Ls because they would not be eligible for the 7-Eleven license in Illinois until then.
What are some of the recent accomplishments or things you're most proud of from the work that the students have been doing?
I am such a softie. So the adoptions always kind of make me misty when we do those hearings. And I realize that the cost is a barrier to some people to formalize their relationship with stepchildren who they feel are not actually stepchildren, they are their children. So we had an adoption last semester, and I remember it. I don't think there was a dry eye in the courthouse when the adoption went through. And I feel like those students were really lucky because they were able to handle that case from basically the beginning to the end. We also do discharge upgrades, which I think are unique to the clinic. So discharge upgrades, so most people understand that veterans can get an honorable discharge when they leave service, but there are levels of discharge that are not honorable for a number of reasons. A veteran could have had undiagnosed PTSD during service and acted out and gotten a bad discharge. And we have helped like Vietnam era veterans who had undiagnosed PTSD, got a bad discharge. And a bad discharge is basically like a scarlet letter. It can prevent them from accessing a number of veteran resources. And so when we help a veteran get their discharge upgraded, it also feels like this enormous victory because sometimes it's not even about the veteran's benefits. Sometimes it's a matter of pride for the veteran that the government recognizes their service and what they have done for the country, and that this document will say honorable at the end of the day.
And the emotions that come from adoptions, from those upgrades of discharges, does that kind of bring you back to your family experience a little bit? Is that what makes it such a touching kind of thing?
Part of it is my family experience. So my immediate family luckily has not been touched by war or having anyone deployed to a combat zone. But I have an aunt and an uncle who deployed during the first Gulf War. And so I do have some experience with individuals who may have come back changed. And, being able to work with someone who may not have gotten the best reception when they came back from war, especially Vietnam era veterans, and to help facilitate whatever legal issue they have and pushing that forward to whatever resolution we can find. It does feel personal to me on that side.
Do a lot of the students that you have that sign up for the clinic come in with personal or family military backgrounds?
I wouldn't say a lot of them do. I know we're going to talk to Luke soon, and he himself is in the military. And I have had some students who have become JAG officers, and some students have maybe a distant relative that has served in the military. But really what I want students to take from clinic is to have a deeper understanding of what military life is about. In our society, I think we have a bit of a divide between the number of people who serve and the number of people who are civilians for their entire life. And if I can give them an opportunity to learn more about what service and commitment to our country looks like and what that entails, I think I've also been successful. So I want them to come out with all of the legal understandings and how to do fact finding and how to speak to a client. But I also want them to come out with a greater understanding of military life.
Yeah. And would you say that that's why part of why the clinic experience is very important for a student here?
Yes. So I think it's important to know how to speak to someone who's not like you. And I think the Veterans Clinic uniquely puts you in a position to talk to someone who is different and to understand their life and to understand how to get facts from someone who may not have had the opportunity to speak to someone who is willing to listen to them in the first place. Or they may even be reluctant to talk to someone about personal issues that are going on in their lives, and how you can facilitate and build that relationship with someone to get that information. So I wholly endorse taking clinics, any of the clinics, because I feel like you can get these experiences in any of them. But Veterans Legal Clinic, if you want to have an opportunity to talk to someone and get to know a veteran on a one-on-one basis and represent them in a case, this is your opportunity.
If a prospective student, current student, or a veteran is interested in finding out more about what you guys do, how would they go about doing that?
So we do have a website now, so they can go to the website and they can learn more about the clinic. We also take intakes with the clinic phone number. I can provide it, 217-244-9494, and we take intakes through that phone number. And if they want to reach out, they can also email us.
Thank you. Is there anything else that's important to know about the clinic, about your role or your students?
I think I will just do another plug for clinics generally and not just for the Veterans Legal Clinic. I think they play an important role in a student's legal education. I think that they complement the coursework that they've already done. So it's important to learn the doctrinal law, to learn the case law, to learn, black letter law. But it's also important to learn how to apply that in a case with a person on the other end of it. And so clinic is uniquely situated to give students that opportunity to do so in a learning environment before they go out into the workforce.
Excellent. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for what you do for students, and thank you for what you do for veterans as well.
Thank you for having me.
That was Yulanda Curtis, the founding director of the Veterans Legal Clinic. For anyone interested in Veterans Legal Clinic services, the number to call, again, is 217-244-9494. Or you may email law-clinics@illinois.edu to see if a free legal consultation is appropriate. Now, for our second interview with Luke Hemmerla about his military experience and work with the clinic. Luke, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you taking the time. Can you tell me a little bit about your background with the military first?
Good afternoon. It's excited to be here. So my military background, I've been the Missouri Army National Guard for 9 years now, which is kind of crazy how time has flown by. I originally enlisted as a military police soldier, and now I'm a commissioned officer. I'm the 1137th Military Police Commander, and I got to break up law school a little bit by spending 9 months in Guantanamo Bay as an external security force officer in charge. So
that's quite a different background from some of our other students, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think, made me grow up, especially being a leader in the military has taught me a lot about the life challenges as well as not just my own, but also dealing with those around them.
So what made you want to pursue a career in law and come to Illinois to get your law degree?
So I got a part-time job as a correctional officer when I was an undergrad, just trying to make some money, and ended up leading me to this career. So I was a correctional officer at a small county jail in Adair County, and I got to take inmates over while they would either have hearings or await trial or during trial. And so one of my favorite things to do during the week was actually go and sit in on trials. Being the correctional officer, we always had to have someone over there. And so during that time, I got to see prosecutors, defense attorneys work in a courtroom. And just something about that just drew me to law. I decided I was still undecided in my second year of college. And I'm like, it made the decision pretty easy that this is what I want to do. I wanted to go in a courtroom and litigate cases.
Were there any cases in particular that stood out to you or that you can speak about?
I think it's just some of the murder trials. Like I remember one is really, I ended up talking to the defense attorneys after it because they were both from St. Louis, and they were nice enough to chat with me about it, and just not about the trial, but like being an attorney in general. And it just how much they loved it, how much they had a passion for it, and just the importance to society of having top-notch attorneys, especially when justice system is involved in the rights of citizens. It became not only I could be a public servant, but also a challenging career that I saw myself being in.
Excellent. So, do you have, going back to even when you signed up as a military police officer, is that based on a duty to serve, an interest in public service?
Yeah, I was blessed with having two grandparents in my life. My great grandfather served in World War II. He was a Marine Corps veteran, and then my grandfather was a Army veteran during the Korean War. And both of them talked about their service, not so much in details, but just how they thought it was important to serve the country. And I had some other family members, and I just had felt like it was my calling. I was able to do it, and I wanted to challenge myself, but and also joining the United States Army sounded like a cool thing to do. So I have to admit, part of that is the coolness factor of it. But yeah, I just felt a passion to serve and be able to help out our country.
Similarly, as an Illinois law student, were you drawn towards the Veterans Legal Clinic for that reason?
Yeah, and that was the basis of it, especially because as a veteran myself, I've talked with a lot of veterans. I understand that sometimes veterans have a different view on life based on what they've done, especially in their military career. I've never deployed to a combat operation or environment, but I know lots that have, and I know that is a big mental factor in a lot of people, and not always do they have the access to the things they need. So if I could give back to any veteran, like I thought it was not only an awesome thing, an opportunity to do, but something that I should try to pursue.
And what has been your experience as a student in the clinic?
Oh, it's been an awesome experience. I still remember, I think it was my second week of class last semester. Me and my partner, James Battle, we were getting our very first assignments. And when Professor Curtis said, "Hey, just so you guys know, this one's going to court soon." And I think there was definitely a moment in which we kind of freaked out a little bit about it, but we're just so excited. And not only just going to court, but also just having that constant dialogue with clients and being able to see the problem they have and the steps that we need to proceed so that we can help them in with their navigation of the legal world.
How long have you been a part of the clinic now?
So I did it last semester from January to May, and then I've been in this fall semester. So about 2 months now. The semester's flying by, so it's kind of hard to keep track.
Yeah, and in the time that you've been doing the clinic, how many cases have you seen?
So I guess cases I've had, I think, about 4 clients now. One case we went to actual court on. So, and then besides it, I've done some like screenings and had lots of opportunities to talk to multiple veterans. But I think like cases that I would say that I was handling, or me and my partner were handling, about 4.
And that experience going to court and just, working with clients, how has that made your legal education more enriched or valuable?
So I would especially say just with actually going and practicing law, it's so much different than the doctrinal learning. It's an opportunity to, I think it grows your responsibility and also your problem solving skills. Like it's so much different than like actually learning about cases where you're like, oh, this is a problem. Like, how do we find that solution? And Professor Curtis like really helps us, putting it on us to develop that responsibility of owning a case. And she's always there to assist us, but it's for the legal educational experience for us students, it's huge because if I would have never joined the clinic, I don't think I would understand so much as how do you take a case from start to finish. Not necessarily like that will happen in a semester, but you get to see every aspect of a case and truly develops your problem solving in the legal context. So it's super beneficial.
Yeah. So you would say this is something you'd recommend to all students?
Oh, 100%. I know the clinic's limited on numbers, but if you're a student, it's going to be the best opportunity. And I will have to say the most rewarding 5 credit hours that I got during law school. So yeah.
speaking with Professor Curtis, she mentioned that not everyone comes in with a military background personally or from their family. So how do you think that your experience differs from someone who is just, they want to be part of a clinic and they choose the veterans clinic?
So I think some of the lingo, just like the jargon that we talk about in the military, and some of maybe like if they're hesitant about certain things that they might have had a problem in their life that stems from the military, maybe I have a better understanding. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're all people. I think it's just I've had those conversations with military people more, and yeah, I don't know if it necessarily sets me apart. It just helps the building blocks of developing rapport. And that's because that's something that I tell everyone that is a client of mine that, hey, I'm in the military, and some that could put them at ease because they understand that maybe this person kind of knows where I'm coming from.
Is it any more emotional for you as a military member?
Yes, I think so, especially because not only do I see it from the client's perspective, but also because of the fact that I see those people in my formation. I think it might push me to the next level of trying to care and ensure that those soldiers have the best care that they can have, or military members. I say soldiers a lot because I'm in the Army, but yeah, all of the military members, like I think I have a bigger piece in my heart for it, maybe, but I think everyone truly cares about veterans, and that's why we have the Veterans Clinic. But yeah, definitely, I think for me, there's a emotional piece there.
Yeah. And how do you see this playing into your career after graduation?
I think it will definitely be a beneficial thing. First, I know that I hopefully can pursue some pro bono opportunities once I graduate and go out into the workforce. But also, I think it leads to that I've understand what it means to have a client to report to. And at the end of the day, you have to have those honest conversations about how things are going to proceed and how maybe good or bad news, you actually have to share that. And I think it sets me up with a foundation of understanding once you're actually in the legal world, it's really about meeting your client's needs and making sure you're advocating for them as best you can while law. So is really good about it's a team. Like it is the clinic. So it's not only the veterans clinic, but you have other clinics there. But the fact that you're a team working on cases together, Yulanda, Professor Curtis will make sure you do not fail and that you do your best to advocate for your clients. That's something that I really think it's important, especially in those weekly meetings. We talk about best ways to further a case, and there's always that open dialogue. So it is a great opportunity. You will be challenged, but you also have a fantastic support team to make sure that you and your client succeed as well.
Awesome. Luke Hemmerla, thank you for joining me.
Thanks.
Thank you again to Yulanda Curtis and Luke Hemmerla for taking the time to speak about their experiences. And thank you, listeners, for listening. If you are a veteran and interested in learning more about the Veterans Legal Clinic, you can reach them by calling 217-244-9494 or by emailing law-clinics@illinois.edu. If you have any comments or suggestions for the podcast, please email podcast@law.illinois.edu. Make sure to subscribe to the Illinois LawCast where you find your podcasts so that you can be notified when new episodes are published. This episode was recorded, mixed, and edited by me, Chris Davies. Special thanks to Kelly Moss for our album art and other graphics, and Krista Getke for her help in the editing process. Until next time, thanks for listening to the Illinois LawCast.